Imagine you're sitting alone in a quiet room. No phone, no noise, no one asking anything of you. Just silence. For some people, that sentence feels like a vacation. For others, it feels like a punishment. And here's what's strange. Both reactions come from the same human brain, the same species, the same basic wiring. Yet one person calls solitude freedom, and another calls it suffering. Why? This isn't a small quirk. This is one of the deepest psychological fault lines running through human nature. And when scientists started pulling on this thread, what they found wasn't just interesting. It was genuinely unsettling. Let's go back, way back. For most of human history, being alone wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was a death sentence. Our ancestors survived in groups. They hunted together, slept together, protected each other from things that moved in the dark. The human brain didn't evolve in peaceful isolation. It evolved inside noise, around fire, around people, around constant social information. So the brain developed a system, a biological alarm. Whenever you were separated from your group, your nervous system would flood with anxiety, with restlessness, with that hollow, aching feeling we now call loneliness. That feeling wasn't weakness. That feeling was survival. It was your brain screaming, "Get back to the tribe, or you will die." And for hundreds of thousands of years, it worked. But here's what's strange. Not everyone hears that alarm the same way. In the 1960s, a British psychologist named Hans Eysenck proposed something that would quietly reshape everything we thought we knew about personality. He suggested that the difference between introverts and extroverts wasn't about shyness or confidence or how much someone likes parties. It was about the brain's baseline arousal level. Extroverts, he argued, run naturally understimulated. Their nervous systems are quieter at rest. They crave external noise, social energy, interaction. Not because they're needy, but because that stimulation brings them up to a comfortable level of wakefulness. Introverts are the opposite. Their baseline arousal is already high. Their internal world is already buzzing. Social interaction doesn't energize them. It overloads them. And silence? Silence doesn't feel empty to an introvert. It feels like relief. And this is where everything changes. Because this isn't a character flaw. It isn't immaturity or antisocial behavior or something that needs to be fixed. It is a neurological difference. A different relationship between the brain and stimulation. Different people literally experience the same empty room in physiologically different ways. But here's where it gets darker. Because there's a difference between choosing solitude and being trapped in it. Research from the University of Chicago showed that chronic loneliness, the kind people don't choose, the kind that comes from isolation and disconnection, activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. Not metaphorical pain, not sadness, the exact same brain regions that fire when you break your arm. That's how serious this is. And the terrifying part is, the brain doesn't distinguish well between solitude and loneliness, between chosen stillness and forced emptiness. For someone who was never taught how to be alone, never given a sense of their own inner world, silence becomes amplification. Every fear, every regret, every question they've been running from, suddenly, there's nowhere left to run. That's why some people will do anything to avoid a quiet moment. Fill every second with noise, scroll until their eyes burn, talk not because they have something to say, but because the alternative, sitting with themselves, feels genuinely unbearable. They're not afraid of being alone. They're afraid of what they'll find there. And then something even stranger becomes obvious. Studies show that people who are comfortable with solitude, who actually seek it, consistently score higher on measures of creativity, emotional resilience, and self-awareness. Not because solitude creates those things, but because solitude is the condition that lets them surface. You cannot hear a whisper in a room full of screaming. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote, in the 1600s, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. He wrote that before smartphones, before social media, before we built an entire civilization designed to keep you constantly distracted, he was already worried. What would he think now? Here's what the science keeps circling back to. The people who fear solitude aren't weaker, and the people who love it aren't superior. But somewhere along the way, our culture decided that being alone is something to be fixed, that needing people is healthy and needing space is suspicious. We celebrate the extrovert. We mistake noise for connection. We confuse busyness with meaning. And in doing so, we never taught a generation of people how to be alone without being lost. The result? Millions of people who are terrified of their own minds, who have never met themselves properly, who know every stranger on the internet but have never had a single honest conversation with the person they see in the mirror. But here's what's quietly extraordinary. Solitude, when chosen, when approached with courage, is one of the most transformative experiences available to a human being. The mystics knew it. The philosophers knew it. The neuroscientists are just now catching up. Because in stillness, the noise of other people's expectations begins to fade, and underneath it, underneath the performance, the fear, the constant comparison, something quieter emerges, something that might actually be you. So the next time a room goes quiet, and you feel that instinct to reach for your phone, pause for just 1 second. Ask yourself, am I avoiding distraction, or am I avoiding myself? Because the answer to that question might tell you more about who you are than anything you've ever posted, performed, or pretended to be. Solitude isn't the absence of connection. It might be the beginning of it. For more, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.